But anyway, I'm going to talk to you about global food safety, One Health, and Alfresco. I'm from New Zealand, Massey University, and the aim of my talk today is, first of all, to show you how we're using Alfresco to tackle two very important world issues, global issues, and additionally to show you some extensions we've done in Share that hopefully will be useful to you. Okay, so at Massey University, we basically have our strong point is we have a team of epidemiologists, and also we have a lot of people that work in food safety. That's our strength. We've got in Australasia, we have the biggest epicenter for epidemiology studies. So we run two projects. One of these, the One Health Network in South Asia. Now, One Health, in case you don't know, is all about diseases that affect animals and humans. So these are things like rabies, brucellosis, and they're big killers in many countries. So we set up a One Health network in South Asia. Now, this is a project which was financed by the European Union, and we have 7 South Asian countries are involved. And those countries that work closely with our university, people from the countries, they're doctors, they're veterinarians, health workers, came to New Zealand where they did a master's degree and then went back, and the idea was they would collaborate together in their network to combat One Health issues. Additionally, we also run a project, the Global Food Safety Partnership Network. Now this is from the World Bank. So the World Bank, you can see this is the World Bank's site. They fund the Global Food Safety Partnership. And we work with them, and so this is another collaboration of network of people. And what they're doing is their objective is to improve food safety in developing and middle-income countries. Okay, so we've got two collaborating networks, two separate networks of experts dedicated to do a certain thing. And the way they do their work, they work on specific projects which are funded. And we used Alfresco. So we chose Alfresco as the tool, or as the base of a software framework that we would use to support these two collaboration networks. So first of all, thinking about how we'd model our collaboration network in Alfresco. So we had the concept here, we wanted to have a network site. So this was one site for all members of the particular network. So there'll be a One Health network, Global Food Safety Partnership Network. And to give this structure, we came up with this idea of having hubs, projects, and collaboration sites. So the hub sites were used, that could be used depending upon the network. In the case of the One Health network, the way that worked was that each hub represented a country. So there would be a hub for Afghanistan, a hub for India. And then we had the idea of project sites. This was because the work we do is based on its formal projects. So these are projects that have a particular objective. They have outcomes. They have stakeholders. Stakeholders may be people from the World Bank. So they would need also these projects to publish outcomes, what they've done and what they've achieved. And then finally, we had the concept of the collaboration site. And that was if we want to have a sort of a loose discussions about things. So maybe we want to set up a discussion about anthrax for people to talk about. As you might know, in Alfresco, there's no concept of having parent sites and children. They're all separate sites. So we had to modify our content model. It was quite simple, in fact, to do that. So when we create these particular sites, like a hub site, we could select and choose the parent site, the parent network. And that worked quite nicely. Most of the work was in the the application itself, because, so for instance, you can see down there with the One Health Hub having breadcrumbs, so you could see that it was from the network South Asia. We also made our own My Sites dashlet, because the only type of sites that we use and we create are these type of sites. So this shows all the different site types. Okay, so here's a high-level view of our software framework, which is called HubNet. In the middle, we've got LDAP. That's our user database. Although Alfresco is the core, we need other applications. So we have LDAP. We used CAS, the Central Authentication Service, to provide us with single sign-on. And we had a user management application that we created. That was a PHP application, which was also part of the framework. And that allows us to manipulate LDAP, because LDAP is a little tricky for people to work with groups and users. And also, another use for our user management application was going to be membership. One important aspect that we needed was a way for people to manage to join our networks. It was very important that people would be able to apply for the network, and then we'd have some sort of process by which people would fill out forms, online forms, and we get a lot of information about them. And what we would do with the potential users would go into an applicant's tree in LDAP, and we'd have all that information. And when they finally got approved, we could put them into the application itself. So that was very useful, that process. So at the top there, you can see we've got additional applications to go in there. Moodle's one that'll be coming along. And we've got other ones that are particularly related to One Health for doing statistical analysis, for disease outbreaks, those sorts of things. So another very important aspect is that we needed to be able to represent our networks on the web. And so we used Drupal for that. Because Alfresco, unfortunately, doesn't really have a good way of creating a nice website. So what we wanted was that every single network in Alfresco, every single network site, could be represented as a Drupal site. So the Drupal site would represent the network and also all of the hubs, the projects, and we wanted them a mechanism by which we could publish. So, for instance, if they're working on a project, they could publish, and out it would go to Drupal and appear. So another reason we chose Drupal, and we hadn't before we started, was the fact that it's got a very good, it's got some very good modules by which you can work with Alfresco. Its CMIS modules work very nicely, and the CMIS modules what we used to do our publication out to Drupal. Okay, so just to look through this network application process, I was going to show you on the browser, but with the problems we've got here, I think I won't risk that. But this slide gives you an idea. Basically, what happens is people go onto the front page of the site, and they click to become a member, to join. And depending upon what network site it is, they'll come through. There'll be a screen a little bit on the left-hand side that will allow them to choose one or more hubs that they can join. So as well as applying to join the network, they can also apply to join one or more hubs. And then they fill out a lot of personal details, organization details. We wanted to make sure that when our network members searched, we had full details about all our members, all their qualifications and organizations. And then once an application went through, we would have a set of users, and they would be the ones who approve new members. And they approve new members for each hub or for the network. And so they went through, had another screen, which they accessed from within Share, by which they could view the full details of the applicant. Then they could possibly ask them to resubmit more details if they hadn't submitted enough to support their application. And finally, they could reject them, or they could add them to the to HubNet. And so when someone was added, allowed to join, what happened then was that all the user detail from the applicant tree was moved into the user tree in LDAP. And we had web scripts that added them to Alfresco. And then we had another web script. What that did was got all their profile information and put it into our extended Alfresco user profile, which we extended considerably. Okay, so you can see here a little, so if you can see at the bottom there how we extended the user profile. We had a tabbed interface along the bottom there, and we have considerable information about the users as well as the contact details. We've got sectors, public health, animal health, wildlife, organizations showing their full history, qualifications, all the qualifications they've got, professional development, expertise, affiliations. So that enabled us, so if you're working on something in Bhutan and you want an expert in a certain area, you can easily find them. And we didn't have all the hassle of going around to users afterwards and trying to get them to fill out their profiles. We also extended the people search. Our users really had basic IT skills, and they found a lot with Alfresco very difficult to cope with. So for instance, with the people search, we changed so that all they had to do at the top there was put some text in, a bit of the name if they knew it, and then they could, with those boxes there, just and additional criteria to drill down. So it was nice and easy, and they could understand that and immediately get what they wanted. Okay, publication. So this was the big part, and this took quite a bit of work, and we still haven't quite completed it. But let's imagine that in Alfresco, we've got a project that our users are working for on a particular in their network. So they're working on their project, and this is one that's World Bank funded, and the World Bank are stakeholders. And they want to know what's going on. They want to find out about things. So what they can do is we created a custom content type, a news article custom content type. And we wanted our users only to have to work in Alfresco. We didn't want them to try to understand Drupal. Drupal was difficult, complicated. So in Alfresco, in our custom content type in the form, all they had to do was fill out a box with a text of their news article, and then go through and select images that they wanted to appear with their news article, and then go through and select documents, PDF, Word documents that they wanted to associate with it. And then they would submit that to our approval workflow. That approval workflow, once again, it was another thing that we simplified, made much easier. It was a simple process. They submitted it. It went to a group of editors who could write feedback. It went back again, backwards and forwards. I mean, we had all sorts of issues with the workflow in the fact that with the one existing, you work with a workflow, and the first thing the user does is they open their task. They see there's a document they have to look at. They click on it. They go to the document, and then how do I get back to the task? And then it was tricky. It's not easy. So we changed that to make that easier for them to work with. And once that had been approved, we had it was published. And publishing simply consisted of copying the relevant content to a folder, a publish folder that we created in the repository. So we had a publish folder, and underneath that we had a folder for each of our networks. So it was extensible for new networks to be added. But under each network, we had a folder for the content type, and that was the content type in Drupal. So if you've got a bit of project news, that would go in the project news folder down there. And then we triggered our CMIS process. And CMIS, what that would do is that would bring it across and recreate the project news as a Drupal content type. So it brought it over to Drupal, and bang, it would pop up in the correct place in Drupal. So that went in that column there. And then the image they appeared, they had selected would appear as a cornerstone. They'd have the teaser, they could click through. And so basically we're allowing them to manage and create and grow their websites through publishing in Alfresco. And another thing that I was going to show was our blogs. I've got also a slide that shows that. I think I was going to show that live, but with the blogs as well in Alfresco. Users liked our blogs, liked the blogs in Alfresco. They found them easy to work with. Normally with the blogs in Alfresco, what you do is you can publish externally to WordPress or a blogging facility. But we changed it so that they published to Drupal. So when they published it, the blog would come across and it would be displayed in Drupal on the right-hand column there. And then they could click on it, view the blog. If they wanted to comment, they would go in to share, to comment on it. Okay, I'll talk now briefly about, just to give you an idea about the sort of project work we do. This is the Bhutan Rabies project, for one example. Now, a bit of background in Bhutan, they've got a big problem with free-roaming dogs. Now, Bhutan, it's a Buddhist country, and if you ever go there, you'll notice dogs seem to be they're treated a little bit differently. They're not pets, but they're not sort of waifs and strays either. They sort of live at the same level as people. And as you can see from the pictures here, they're actually, quite nice-looking dogs. The problem with this, of course, is they may carry rabies. And what had been happening was that they were noting in the health centres around the country that more and more people were coming in and asking for vaccinations for dog bites, for rabies. And rabies vaccinations are expensive, very expensive. You have to have, I think, 4 or 5 of one type of shot and another one. So they wanted to work out exactly, is there some sort of pattern with the way these dogs move around? Do they sort of stay in one place? Do they move seasonally? What do they do? And they believe that with that information, analysing it with other information, it would help them to focus their work to combat rabies. So we worked together with a company in the UK called Retriever, and they produce dog tracking collars, as you can see on that one there. And the idea was we would put these collars on as many dogs as we could, and they'd all go off and they'd wander around, and we'd track them until the battery ran down, and then we'd collect them again, and then we put them on more dogs, and gradually we build up a lot of data because these collars would constantly be logging location data. And so we would collect all this data, and then they could analyze it. What we did was we had a mechanism like this. We added extended HUDNet again, and we had an interface by which we could control each collar. So we had each collar we could select, we could see where it was, we could send commands to it, and commands are things like telling it how often to get data, when to send data up to our server, and also, very importantly, to be able to actually have an idea of how much battery was left, because if we ran out of battery and that didn't work, then of course we'd lost the collar. So that was a little tricky. Is one of our people there getting everything set up. But that worked very well with Alfresco because we used CMIS, which uploaded straight into Alfresco, into the Bhutan Rabies project site. So it went straight in there. There the data could be analysed by the experts. They could discuss the results. And finally, when they had their findings, they were able to publish that out to a display on their Drupal page. Okay, to talk about some of the challenges, an idea of some of the challenges. I mean, our big challenge was the fact that our users had little experience using a collaboration tool. They'd not used anything before. They just email each other and send around files. A lot of users didn't actually want to collaborate as well. I had one user when we talked about getting more people in who would say, well, they were worried about diluting the information. So they had all sorts of funny ideas about collaboration. But we're getting there, and you can see now, we have frequent activities when things are happening now, which is good. Also, other things in Alfresco that didn't mean much to them, they had no idea. I mean, things like, whether a consumer, collaborator, or whatever, they didn't really like that. And they didn't really model well with our project sites. In a project, you're working on a project. You've got your job you do in the project. So we set up another mechanism with our own groups, so we could have our own names that appear in our site members dashlet. Also, some users wanted their status to appear in the dashlets as well, so that worked quite well for that. Cultural and political, we had countries like India and Pakistan, and there's friction between the two of them. What was good there was our mechanism with having the separate hubs for the countries. We had strong security, so they knew that if they wanted to do stuff within their country, that would be secure, and people in other sites wouldn't be able to access that. In all sorts of areas, we had to simplify the interface. Little things that you and I probably don't think about. I mean, they went to create a bit of content, and then the first thing is a box that says name. We think, well, that's the file name, but they will put their name in, which is not unreasonable when you think about it. So we did a lot of work like that. And I'll just show you, I think I've got this one. Oh, yes, this one. Luckily, I had this one here. So this just shows when you've logged in the blogs there. So the way we had the blogs displayed on the right-hand side. And you can see, each of these is not in the middle there. That will be from our project sites and collaboration sites. On the left-hand side, our network and hub sites, and the blogs there grouped by the sites that they came from. And you can't quite see it in those ones, but when there were comments, they came up with little bubbles. That's quite an old picture, I think, that one. Okay, so the future. From here, we've got lots of new possibilities coming up. I mean, I think the world's waking up to the fact that the One Health and food safety are important issues they need to address. So the European Union has now got new projects coming up. Relief International's getting involved. All of these are interested in using HubNet and Alfresco. We want to start a new network for the One Health Network Southeast Asia. That's important. And we've got these big groups. That's where our money comes from: World Bank, European Union, Gates Foundation. Our objective, and one of the reasons I'm here and trying to talk to people, is to make Alfresco and HubNet to be the preferred collaboration environment for these sorts of projects that are funded through international aid grants. So when the World Bank has a new project coming up, the first thing it thinks, oh, well, we're going to do that in HubNet and Alfresco. That's the objective. Okay, well, I'm out of time now. Thank you very much for listening. I apologize again, I couldn't show you, on the browser a few things live, but thank you. Any questions?
How did you manage to train users? So, we've run into this in the past when people don't really know how to work with collaboration or just used to attaching things to emails. Did you have workshops? Did you do like online training on this?
Yeah, well, we did just about all of those things. So I mean, it was hard. We had people going out into the countries who did sessions, so that was useful. But a lot of that, it was often difficult to get all the people together. So we did that. We also actually created another site type, a technical support site type, which is all about where they would go in and they could view videos and things to help them. So that was one. We did online sessions. We had wiki pages, so everything we could think of, really. We just sort of, and we basically told them, you know, if they've got a question, put it on the technical support site. If you don't want to do that, call us, Skype us, whatever we could think of. And so we're sort of banging away at them to try to get that happening. But it's working, and people are using it, and that's good.
So, go ahead. I was just wondering about how many members you have.
Okay, so for the One Health network, I think we've got about the last count is about sort of 700, and the food safety partnership is about, I think it's about sort of 800 or 900, something like that. But it's actually growing. I mean, since we put in that our membership process, we get quite a lot of applications online. The problem with that is actually it's, and it's my big fear, is the fact that all our users are collaborators. So they can all create files. They've got a fair amount of permissions. But some of our users whose job it is to approve, you know, sometimes they get a little bit lazy and they see one and think, oh, I'll just accept him and set them and get them through. And that's sort of a bit of a security issue that I don't know what we can do about, apart from being vigilant.
Yeah, so I was heading in that direction related to security, but before that, is the physical server that you're doing this work on at the university?
It's not actually at the university, no. We have actually, because the original intention when the project started, it was one of the things the World Bank is important about, is being able to give it back to the countries. That never worked, particularly because, I mean, we had countries like India and Pakistan, and they would never agree to have it hosted in one and not another. So it's now not hosted at the university, but it's hosted with a separate in a data center in New Zealand, which is a fairly sort of neutral place.
Basically, world access.
Yes, yes.
The internet to this system.
That's right. Yeah. So it's there. We're sort of thinking about how the cloud can help us.
I was going to ask you that. If you talk much about that in terms of your system architecture. It must be very complex doing this, but.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that always trips us up with this is that, I mean, all the stuff that you hear about Alfresco is great and it's fine, but as soon as you start doing something like you bring in CAS, and you've got multiple applications, that tends to cause all sorts of other issues of things that don't work quite right.
That's why I came to this pitch, because actually it's kind of real world stuff.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
this is kind of where it's really happening, you know, feet on the street.
That's right. I mean,
Meets the road a little bit.
yes, yeah.
So, yeah, really interesting, great project. But so on the network you have now, you mentioned security that's relative to maybe the data going in, or if somebody checks it okay. Is it that kind of security you're worried about?
I think we're fairly safe in that way. We've got quite a strong, I mean, everything goes through the Apache front-end web server, so it's all encrypted, and it's fairly safe. As I say, what I think is our danger would be, you know, there are people who wander around the internet, and I don't know what they do, but people trying to apply, filling out a huge bogus application, and someone, you know, having a brain explosion and letting them in, and then they going in and, you know, creating a blog or content, something like that, and then when other users start seeing that, it makes them, they lose confidence in the security of the system.
Yeah, the integrity of the data.
Exactly, yes, yeah. You know, you could probably stop it pretty quickly, but you don't want that to happen, no.
Just generally, so what's your team size that you're using to manage this?
Well, at the moment, it's down to just me, because we just finished with a bit of funding. And so our developers are off doing other things at the moment. So one of the things I want to talk to Alfresco is whether they've got a sort of an open source, sorry, not open source, more an, what's the word, non-profit, you know, a model, because otherwise We can't continue because we depend on grants, and most of the money is for actually doing the project work in the country. USAID, oh sorry, yes, I didn't include USAID. USAID is one of the ones, yes. In fact, we have another project that's possibly on the cards with some universities in the USA. So USAID is on that list. I'm sorry, I forgot to put them on there. Yeah.
How much work was it, did it take to get CAS to work with LDAP and Alfresco?
Yeah, so yes, that was probably the hardest thing we had to do. We did have some help, though. We worked with Solnet Solutions, is a gold partner of Alfresco in New Zealand, so they helped us. Having said that, now that we've actually got it in, it works very well. It's very solid. It's just, you know, I have nightmares if something goes wrong. But we are quite easily able to add new applications to it, and it's really quite nice once it's going.
So are you using, for the user management, are you using something OpenAM or some other user profile management system?
No, this was, and once again, this was a PHP application, and Solnet Solutions in Wellington started that off. They gave us a base application for it, and it just uses PHP, and it manipulates LDAP, and you know has nice screens, so it's easy to manage groups and add users, and also it works well for our network membership process, you know, so that we can get people in and move them across between different areas of LDAP. Okay, thanks very much.